4000 for Billboard Battalion, and today we're coming to you from downtown Cayuga, as we so often do. Cayuga, which is in Victoria in Australia for overseas people. Today's live is going to be a fairly hard thing to do. Today's issues that we're looking at are going to be pretty tough stuff to deal with, and you know, over the years I've been involved in quite a lot of issues in community and social issues and industry issues, and you know, we've had a lot of experiences where you know, people have had very tough times with a lot of things that's happened. And you know, a lot of the things I've been involved with have involved not only agriculture but community, and we're dealing with some more issues today. We've been talking to more people just recently about things that are happening with regard to the electricity and the renewable energy situation. A lot of the new wind turbines and all the power lines and the transmission lines and areas like that, and it's becoming a common theme for people who are under enormous pressure and enormous stress because of what's being done to them. And you know, I can look back now with the experiences I've had over the years, and we look at what's happened with the tactics and strategies of things like the Murray-Darling Basin Plan or the North-South Pipeline. A lot of the issues that we've just dealt with at a global scale with a disease that was going around, and now with all these renewable energy things, and how governments and big company start to deal with people and communities and how they get done what they set out to do, and the incredible destruction that is caused to individuals, to families, to groups, to communities. And you know, when we start to look at these things, we can see a very clear pattern starting to form. And I know when I was fighting against the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, you know, I ran a lot of meetings, had a group, Southern Basin Communities, and I also was a president of the VFF, one of the branches there, and UDV branches. So we ran a lot of meetings, and because of what the government was doing and their policies, so many people became so distressed, distraught, and they were seeing their lives being destroyed right in front of their very eyes. And you know, we ran meetings where we had farmers who'd come up, you know, sometimes fourth generation farmers who owned their place. They owned the farm, that had it handed down, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy because of policies. And I want people to know that a part of the strategies, whether you're talking about the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, because we had a lot of meetings with the MDBA, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, and you know, so many of the meetings where they talked about they were going to have public consultation, they were going to inform people what was happening, they were going to take people's ideas on board, that was a farce, because they already knew what they were going to do, and they already knew the incredible destruction that was going to cause. And I put it to many people that, you know, the pressures that are brought to people and their families is actually the idea. That's the whole purpose. That's their strategies, that's their tactics. And talking to people now, as I am, with regard to a lot of these renewable energy projects and the incredible impacts that that's going to have on their lives and their properties and their businesses, we can see from talking to them exactly the same tactics and strategies are being implemented. You know, we're seeing lots of people who are saying, you know, they put out in their literature, the power companies, whether it be AEMO or all the companies who are involved in that, they put out that they're going to have public consultation, that they're going to talk to landholders and stakeholders, they're going to have good information so people know what's going on, when in fact it's not. The exact opposite. And this, I put it to you, is part of the strategy to confuse people. They want to confuse people. They want people to be confused. They want them to be anxious. They want them to be unstable. They want to destabilise communities and also industries. And that is exactly what we've seen with the water issues with regard to farmers in Australia. That's precisely what we've seen with a lot of the issues that they talk about with regard to what has a word in it called climate. Let's just say that, and all the so-called mitigation to deal with that alleged issue, which is a total fraud, absolute garbage. It's lies. But what it does is that creates more anxiety and mental pressures in amongst our farmers, in amongst our families and our communities. And I can tell you right now that, you know, a lot of the meetings that we ran where we were dealing with the water issues and farmers, I quite literally would have, you know, full-grown men and women farmers come up and cry on my shoulder, literally burst into tears, and because they were so distressed. And so a part of what we want to talk about is this tactic and what it's about. So, you know, we're seeing that now happening in the situation with all this renewable energy. We've seen it happen with the climate stuff, and we've seen it happen particularly with the things that were going around, this big disease that we had across the world there. You know, they deliberately created problems with the community. They frightened the hell out of everybody. They stopped people from getting the medical interventions that actually work. And then, you know, they split up friends, families, and communities. And I can tell you right now, I lost lifelong good friends over positions. And I know families that were destroyed. I know communities that were split in half. And I put it to you that that is their tactic. That is their specific tactic, and that is what is designed to happen. So, you know, when we start to look at what's happening around the country, then people are in such distress, and this is, we've seen it, they burst into tears just talking about the issue or the pressures they're under. So we want to really start to highlight for people that where people might, and I know with the farmers, people were told they were failures. They were told that, you know, they're not good farmers, they're not good at business, they're not good operators. And, you know, some farmers are going to go broke because of the plan and the water thing, but that's because they're bad farmers, you know, they're not good people. And that was part of the strategy. And I can tell you right now, we argued the case at that point, it's not the people are bad farmers or whatever, it's that the government policy is the problem. They are making things so it's impossible for people to operate and to work. So this now is a reoccurring theme that we're seeing across so many issues, and I know people right now today who their families are falling, they're being split in half with all this these power line things and whatever, as have over this disease that we had a while ago, as over the so-called shots, as over the issues with all the water stuff and all the climate stuff and all the education stuff and whatever. Constantly they are about creating division and anxiety and splitting people up and making people fight against each other. This is a constant theme. And the bottom line, I remember when in the water stuff, I said to people, what we're dealing with here is mental, emotional, and economic warfare. This is mental, psychological, and economic warfare. So what we're seeing is the powers that be, the ones that sit in Canberra or the ones that sit in your state capitals, they are engaged in deliberately destroying you mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and financially. That is the plan. And everything that they do, this is the result. So where we may have the odd one or two said, oh, look, I don't believe they do that. I don't think they do. Why would they do that? Okay. Why is not important. The evidence is what is important. The facts, the data is what is important. and the personal testimonies of people such as myself. And we're going to be talking to some of the people involved in this power stuff in the next few days, and talking to them and getting their position and how they feel and what effect it's had on them. So at the end of the day, I remember hearing politicians back in the time when so many farmers, and this is something that needs to be said. So many farmers were so distraught and so destroyed that, you know, so many farmers took their own life. This happened. And I know at the time that was all very hush-hush. You don't report on it, you don't talk about it, you don't say what's going on. And I've been at different meetings and things where I've spoken about this. And every now and again you'll get somebody who says, oh look, you know, you shouldn't talk about that. But the bottom line is, we must. We must talk about it. Because these things are so serious. These things are absolutely so serious. And if we don't address issues, if we don't talk about these things, then these people who are deliberately doing this to us are going to continue. We've got to nail them. And I also think that, you know, I had a lot of friends, or a lot of people that I knew who, you know, they lost everything. They lost their families, their marriages, their kids, everything they'd ever worked for. You know, they destroyed everything, and these people were under so much pressure, and that was in many cases the results, where we lost good people. And I can remember at the time I was working alongside counsellors and talking to you know, people in the undertaking business and that kind of stuff, you know, rural supporters. And these people were real. The things that were happening were real. And I don't think it's okay to just sweep that under the carpet. I know at the time the media were told you do not report on people who've taken their own lives. You don't raise that as an issue, you know, because, oh, you know, you're going to make people feel bad or whatever. But the deal is, these are real people. And this is real stuff that was happening back then, and it's still happening now. So we need to raise these issues, and we need to talk about it. And back then, they wouldn't let you say anything. That was the strategy. No, it's all a cover-up. They don't want people to know the impact of their policies. And this is what's happening. And I can say that back then, there were a lot of surveys going around by different, I think some of them might have been universities or something like that, and different organisations. And these scumbags, these supposedly caring, nice people, you know, they put up, look, let us know if you're having a hard time, you know, if your mental health is being affected, or your family's falling apart, you know, let us know, because we're trying to get the data and whatever, as if they're going to help. And my assessment of that, which I believe is correct based on I was there at the time on the ground and seeing what was happening, my assessment is that we talk about global powers, or we talk about what governments might be doing to people. My assessment is that those surveys were not, and I might not be wrong. I have to sort of say that to get it over the line. My assessment is that those surveys were put out and got back in the information so that they could measure their success, not to work out how many people needed help or support or anything else. My opinion was they sent out those surveys to measure the success of their shocking, terrible policies. And this is my experience on the ground and being heavily involved in all this stuff at the time. So I also remember talking to some of these filthy scumbag low-life politicians who said, you know, we're going to put all these millions of dollars into mental health to support people. And I can remember saying to them at the time, you don't need to put money into mental health to support people. You've got to stop the problem that is causing the mental health issues. And these mental health issues are you. You low-life, filthy scum politicians who vote for these policies, who destroy people's lives. And as we know, they're not operating for the Australian people. That is crystal clear. They are operating for powers that want to wipe out everything we've got here, including your families. And this psychological and economic warfare against people is one of their primary targets. This is their primary weapons. And when they said to me about we're going to put more money into mental health, I told them, you are the problem. Stop causing the problem and you won't have mental health issues. You won't have people who are taking their own life. You're not going to have families who are destroyed. You're not going to have people who are so distraught and so anxious and in so much pain that they can't even operate, because that is what you politicians created. And you are still doing it today, because you are still voting into legislation the things that these low-lifes want, who want to get rid of people in Australia, not only Australia but worldwide. You are giving them the weapons they need. And so a part of the purpose today is to start to educate people, to let them know, first of all, you are not bad people. You are not failures. You are under attack. Our entire society is under attack. And that's what we need to get up, and that's what we need people to understand, because you can't fix a problem if you don't understand what the problem is, or you don't know there is one. And, you know, we lost amazing people who should still be here with us, and they're not, because of what was done to them, not the fact that they were failures. And I must say that, you know, we learned some very serious lessons. And one of the lessons that I learned is that when all this water stuff happened, there were so many farmers who were quite happy to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, well, the ones that are going to go broke, you know, they're the bad farmers. They were happy to jump on that bandwagon. This was pushed by most of our so-called farmer representative lobby groups. The VFF did this, the National Farmers Federation did this, the National Irrigators Council did this. And a lot of the people from the Murray-Darling Basin Authority and your politicians, these lowlifes, all did this. And when we saw farmers going broke and being sent bankrupt and taking their own lives, this was the narrative. So they blamed, the victims of this were blamed for their own demise when that wasn't their fault. So at the end of the day, we have to understand that this isn't funny, but it is to some degree poetic justice or lesson learning. Is that I know personally many of the farmers and that who were involved in these groups who said, oh, the bad farmers are going to go broke because they're no good, they won't adapt, they won't take on technology, new ideas, blah, 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 still farming like they were in the 50s, you know, wok, wok, wok. Many of those farmers who were criticising the others, only a few years later, themselves were going broke. because the government continually changed the rules. They continually came back after more water. They changed the marketplace. The government came into the marketplace and spent enormous amounts of money. They underwrote a high price where the farmers who needed the water couldn't get it. The government did that. It's a deliberate tactic. So therefore, if you were criticising others, many of them who were criticising them now were falling victim to their own thing. So the point of that is to say that we need a specific strategy where people stick together. We need to understand what's happening, and if I can educate people to understand these are the tactics, then we need to stick together. And at the end of the day, that's how we can win. And we need to understand what the problems are. And in most of these cases, the problems are our politicians who make up the governments, who then work for these international groups who want to do certain things to our country and to our people. So we really, really need to start to put together our strategies, and that's what Bilboes Battalion are going to do. First of all, let people know what the problem is. Let them know they are not failures. Let them know they are under attack from specific policies that are designed to do this. And then put our groups together and put the pressure on the politicians, because they are the ones who vote this stuff in. And these are the ones who come out and they turn around and say, you know, it's the people who are failing, and we've got to vote for this and that and the other thing. We give the WEF or whatever the power, we give the UN the power. Those are our Achilles' heels. And I must say that a part of the politicians, they are the ones who are experts in dividing and conquering. They are the ones who are the experts in getting people and families and communities to fight against each other. And I saw yesterday a politician, Anne Webster, who was running some of these meetings, and it's noted that the electricity companies who were supposed to be there did not. But anyway, what I can say is this: I saw Anne constantly saying to people at the meetings, the farmers and so on, "Oh, what do you think about the city people? You know, do you think they understand what we have to deal with here in the country?" And so she was in the business very, very strategically and very deliberately of creating a divide and two warring parties, basically the farmers versus the people in the cities. And this is what they always do. And I can tell you right now, this is a strategy that is used all the time. Make the farmers hate the city people and so on. But our experience with Bilboes Battalion and my experience over many years of running protests in the city and so on, is that the people in the city love country farmers. They love the farmers. And our big issue is they don't know the issues that are happening. And Bilboes Battalion is certainly involved in bringing the message from farming and what's involved into the city areas. We do a lot of meetings down there, and you know, the city people will get on board and help the farmers if they know what the problems are. But you've got the politicians and the rest of them divide us, and all they hear from the media and from the farmer groups is, "Oh, look, farming's great, the farmers are making a fortune, best prices ever, blah, blah, blah," and they're lying to them. So many people in the city, they don't know what we're dealing with. And a part of our job, what we want to do, is to get the people in the city to understand, and we need to bring city people and country people together, once again, as one fighting force. Because I can tell you right now, if we see, you know, so many people in the city areas, and we do a lot of meetings down there, they will help us if they know what's going on. So, you know, that's exactly the situation that we're dealing with. And, you know, there is, I suppose, a disconnect between some metropolitan people and farmers, because, you know, as many people have commented, you know, we all knew, all the city people knew someone in the country at some point. But our mission is to bring them back together, to get Australians to be Australians, to join our city counterparts with our farmers. Because when we have taken rallies and protests to Melbourne, to the city, we have had incredibly fantastic responses. So, this is one of the things that we need to do to pull our country back together. So this is part of our mission. That's what we're doing. And, the bottom line is we need to form up as a fighting force against our politicians, because they are our problem. And that's what we're doing. We're bringing people together to put those things in place. So I'd just like to say, lastly, we get a lot of comments from people on these lives and Billboard Battalion and the other stuff we do, and that is great. We love it. It's terrific. So just something that, I've never seen this anywhere before, but what I might ask people to do is, when people make comments, you might just give us a brief idea of your location. That would be handy to know. I'd like to know where people are coming from. I don't mean your address, but like a region or a town or a city or a place or something like that. I'd like to know that. That'd be good to see that, and know how many people we're reaching or what areas we're getting into. So okay, so we got one straight away from Rex Kite from Melbourne, Victoria. Good on you. Look at that, Brenda Bennett. War cool. Mandy Smith from Bendigo. Wow. Okay, Broome, WA. Okay, wow, that's fantastic. I really appreciate people saying that, because we can get an idea. We get some people who say we've never heard of Billboard Battalion, and others go, you'll go to a meeting somewhere, run into someone in the street, and they say, yeah, we follow you. That sort of lets us know that what we're doing is working. That's working. So that's fantastic. So I better pull the pin now and get amongst it. So just so great to hear from so many people and where they're coming from. Love it. Absolutely love it. So thank you very much. And if we can do that every time we do a live, that'd be great. Yep. Great. All right, thank you, people. I'll pull the pin at the minute. So Wade Northhausen for Billboard Battalion, signing off, and we'll talk again tomorrow at 12:30. So don't forget, your politicians are our problem. We need to put it together to give it to them, not violently, absolutely never ever violently, but we need to put pressure on them. So thanks, people. I'll sign off at that, and we'll go from